How's it going out there, all you hep cats and cool chicks? Welcome to the Sounds Like Liberty podcast. I'm your host, Nikki P, here with my wonderful life and cool chick, Lizzie.
What's up?
How you doing today, Lizzie?
I'm doing just fine.
Well, this is episode number 63 with the Launchpad Media, always launching ideas in your direction. How long can I do that stupid voice, did you think?
I mean, I was just going to kind of let you go and see how long it lasted.
Well, you weren't laughing at it, so
it was entertaining.
Fun.
I was laughing on the inside.
That's about all we're getting out of you today. Liz has been told she has to at least fake it, like she's enjoying being here today.
I am enjoying being here today.
I distinctly get the impression she's not enjoying being here today, or anywhere for that matter.
Fair enough.
Why are you not liking being anywhere today, Liz?
Well, I'm not sure what that has to do with our show.
Well, it has to do with our show because we're people and we're real.
We are
real people.
I am looking at the next 3 or 4 months of my life and trying to figure out how to organize them, and that is not my strong suit. So it is a challenge for me, and therefore my brain is annoyed at my.
I feel like you're trying to organize it, and you should just be doing it.
Right, because nothing needs like forethought or preparation.
I mean, what's that really going to do for you?
I would make sure I have
stressed out?
The actual money and or things that I need when I get to those times, if I could actually plan for them ahead of time. I think that's the way organization's supposed to work.
Well, if you think,
as I said, I'm not a veteran. So.
If you think money is a concern, it's going to make more money.
Well, no, that's not how that works exactly.
No?
No, because you're never going to make enough money so that it doesn't matter what the hell you do.
There are people
you
that do.
You always have to make choices about what you do with your money.
Look, are we trying to give these people a lesson in economics to start the episode out?
Sure.
Are you going to be the one to give that lesson?
I think I just did. Opportunity cost. The end.
Touché. Anyway, so what do we got on the docket today? It has been a weird week.
They're all weird weeks, but this one has been particularly odd, yes.
Yeah, like they're still fighting over in Hong Kong, and somehow China hasn't bombed them yet.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Liz?
It's depressing.
Why is it so depressing? What's depressing about it?
Well, because
you feel like they need Jesus, right?
Well, no, they're trying to. Honestly, I think half the issue was that they're persecuting the people that have Jesus over there. But
that's a different island. We're talking about the capitalists.
Oh, okay. And
technically they're persecuting Muslims over there.
Like to have the idea that, America's like doing so great with the democracy and the freedom and the whatnot. And I don't know if it always feels that way for people actually living here. So there's that.
I see. I've just been informed that we have a spirit upstairs. Why don't you come tell me about the spirit?
Oh, a spider.
Okay.
That
I don't care about spiders.
Yes.
I was way more interested when you were telling me there was ghosts in the house. All right. Well, anyways, folks. So today we have a fantastic interview. Who do we have an interview with, Liz?
Mr. Kyle Anzalone.
Of what?
Foreign Policy Focus.
He's also a writer of some renown.
Yeah, it was really actually amusing to me that when I asked about Kyle Anzalone and for research purposes, where should I be researching? You did not actually mention Foreign Policy Focus, and I'm actually a big fan of that podcast.
Well, I didn't mention it because he just kind of does it now.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think it's his thing.
Okay.
He's off writing articles and like helping run organizations and stuff.
This is true.
And being tall, apparently. That's my real takeaway from all this is Kyle was taller than I thought he was going to be.
That I feel like it's a weird thing to take away from a radio interview.
Why?
Because you're not looking at it's like it's not pertinent to the interview at all, other than the fact that you have this thing about tall people.
No, Liz, all short people have things about tall people.
I don't. I actually don't give a care at all.
Because you're a woman. It's different.
Okay.
You're looking for tall people.
I'm not looking for tall people.
Yes, you are.
Tall people are just there. They're blocking the sun and or helping me reach things. So, it goes both ways.
Yeah, they're blocking my view at concerts. That's what they're doing to me.
Okay.
They're causing bar fights with me. They have the audacity to be tall so I couldn't fucking see.
They have the audacity.
And they won't let me stand next to their girlfriend. And that is enough to beat the shit out of them. I'm telling you.
Okay. I'm just going to leave that alone. I don't even know what to do with that.
You don't have to do anything with it. It handles itself.
Okay.
So, anyways, folks, let's get into this interview here with Kyle Anzalone. Welcome to the Sounds Like Liberty podcast. We're here today with Kyle Anzalone of Kyle's Files. Is that still like your stomping ground?
I'm being a smart ass. Need to move away from all that because I really I got rid of the Kyle's Files domain, and so now most of my work is just either at foreign policy focus. The show is on the libertarianinstitute.org. I write the daily news roundup there as well. The Libertarian Party Mises Caucus posts about half of my stuff on their website. I think whenever Stephen Clyde gets around to finding it, it ends up there. And then I'm also the assistant opinion editor at antiwar.com.
Ooh, moving up in the world.
Yeah, well, thanks.
What did you have to do to Scott to get that position?
Nothing
okay. You
in
don't have to
particular.
out yourself. It's fine.
Thanks. Yeah.
Anyways, I know Kyle because we have been in a group chat for the Libertarian Union for probably 2 years now, year and a half, something like that. That I've been in there.
At least it's been a long time.
We've talked about getting Kyle on, but Kyle's all like, I don't know. He's one of those guys that knows actual stuff.
Mm-hmm. So he's too busy using all that knowledge for things.
Well, he is pretty important, so there's that. But, what do I talk about with people that actually know stuff? I just want to talk about bands and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much do you dislike Five Finger Death Punch? Those are the kind of questions I want to ask people. and he wants to talk about, foreign people and, how we're killing them en masse.
Yeah, which is horrifying.
But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Kyle? Like, how did you find your way to this whole weird little corner of the internet that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, so I guess, going back, to high school, I was on the debate team. And so I was, aware of what was going on in the world. And, they would put policy papers in front of me and I would read them and go debate them and talk about them. But everything I was reading was all mainstream crap. So at the time I was, probably pretty pro-war and just kind of a mainline Republican. My senior year of high school, and then once I got into college, I discovered this guy, Ron Paul. And this is right after the 2008 election season. And man, I mean, it was just an eye-opener. It was, I just consumed everything I could. Luckily, I was in college, so I had all day to just watch YouTube videos of Ron Paul, Peter Schiff, Judge Napolitano, Tom Woods. Eventually, I found Scott Horton and a few other people that it was just eye-opening. And I guess one of the advantages that I had is when I was listening to Ron Paul talk about the wars, I knew all the lies already. And so, he was just debunking all the things that I had learned over time. And I was like, oh my God, this guy really gets it. And then listening to Scott Horton, obviously, that was just the going through and like debunking everything and all the minute details, answering any question I possibly could have left in my head. And that just kind of led me to like want to learn about everything, because I don't get wrong about stuff. And, I want to be right about everything. And I was interested in college. I was still like kind of on the debate circuit. So, I had to stay up to date on all that stuff. And then after, I just kept reading, and that's kind of, how I'm here.
How do you keep yourself so updated? Because you cover a lot of ground. Like I typically actually listen to your show as opposed to Scott, just because Scott puts out too much damn material that I don't have time for all that nonsense. Whereas you condense a fuck ton of material into a half an hour show.
Right. Well, when I was thinking about doing the show, I realized that I was going to be another foreign policy podcaster in the libertarian movement. And Scott is the hands down expert. And so I wanted to intentionally do something different than Scott. And so I decided to rather, he does the interview show and gets into a lot of detail with everything. Whereas I would just kind of do like 3 days a week, just bringing the news of what's going on in the wars. There's a couple apps that I use that, if anybody wanted to, there's something called Feedly, where if you go, you subscribe to different feeds, and it basically gives you, like, in some sites really let you even break it down by author, but every article posted on like a certain subject or something like that. And so, kind of just staying up on all the news wires and everything through Feedly. And then Flipboard's another app where you could, just put any kind of tagline you want in, and it'll just give you every article on it. And over time, you kind of learn that these are the people who write the right things. These are the places that publish the right things. Or even if, people get things wrong, you learn why they do. So, maybe this guy's a communist and he could never understand, some of the problems with China and their economy, or Venezuela and their economy. At the same time, there are things about that situation that they're going to get right. And so it's just been, a lot of learning about like all the different people and outlets and kind of what they want to report on and what their biases are, that now, that I'm close to 10 years into it, it makes it pretty easy to read the news. Whereas at first, you read a lot of crap.
So that was all a long way of Kyle saying that he has a tattoo of fake news on his chest in calligraphy.
That's pretty cool. I appreciate the links, though. I'll put those in the show notes.
So I look at us as kind of like the puff piece, because I want to find out who are the cool people that I care about hanging out with when we actually reach Ancapistan. And I do that by talking about music to people. So where do you come from on the music front? Do you like a big ska kid or metalcore kid like our buddy Will there?
Yeah, no, me and Will are pretty opposite on music taste.
You listen to Enya?
Like when I was growing up, I kind of just listened to my dad's music, which was like 70s and 80s, like pretty pop rock kind of stuff. Once I like got into college, I started getting into a little bit more of my own music and listening to like just different kinds of rap. Most of it was pretty bad, like some alt rock bands. And I don't know, now I read a lot. So I listen to either a lot of like classical, like Chopin, or like this lo-fi music, which is just like, rap beats and stuff like that, mostly without words. So it doesn't kind of distract me trying to read.
Okay.
So in that sense, like probably, not like selling myself here real well on the guy you want to hang out with in Ancapistan, because I, prefer listening to, classical music while I read than any kind of headbanger music like Will over there.
There's gonna be libraries, bro. Don't get yourself twisted.
They're private libraries, so I'm willing to pay a subscription fee. I'll pay, $20 a month like you do, gym membership, to get in and use the library.
There you go.
No public funding.
Oh, there'll still be libraries.
I'm down.
They'll probably be on the internet though. Like libraries will become like chat rooms.
Well, you could be like one of those weird people like me that actually likes to touch and smell and like turn pages and things.
No, they're going to be killed off with the commies.
I see. Well, good luck with that.
People with bad ideas, Liz. That's how that works.
We'll just pelt you all with books.
Now, so I know that you've had at least one guest on where you talked about this. I'm kind of curious if there's, especially, you're one of the anti-war guys. Are there any songs that kind of stick out as like anti-war anthems to you, or things that you kind of put you in the mood to get fired up about it?
I guess the bad thing is kind of not really, because almost everything comes from the left, and a lot of it I think comes off as like too whiny and preachy, and like there's a way that Eric July does music where he's able to put messages in some of it. It doesn't come off as like whiny and preachy and bad, and that's what most
I think it still comes off as whiny and preachy, but just not bad.
All right.
It's not really my kind of music either, but I can respect that it's good music. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest, like all that shit is so high density fucking Austrian economics based. Yeah, the normal audience isn't listening to that shit. He's got a good PR game in the libertarian community. That's how he got his Heat Seekers chart topper.
Maybe. Yeah, but there's not a whole lot of great anti-war music out there. I mean, if people are playing everything, there's that new cover by Bad Wolf of the Cranberries' Zombie. Other than that, I can't think of anything that's come out in the past couple of years that's any kind of good anti-war music.
Kyle, I got a list of stuff I need to send you then.
All right, awesome.
But you are correct. A lot of what we, in general, there's even like solid, just straight libertarian, not even anti-war stuff that comes out. But it is definitely, in some cases, some straight up commies like Rage Against the Machine. I can't stand them, but a lot of people like the band. They put out a whole ton of really good public awareness music, but you have to wonder if they've ever listened to what they say outside of the performance. Like how do you believe what you believe and you put out music like this? Do you not listen to your own lyrics? What's going on there? How you feeling over there, honey?
Yeah, rage was never my thing personally, but yeah, I'm with you.
What is your thing personally?
My thing is asking Kyle what his thing is.
But you're not asking Kyle what his thing is. She's over there half asleep because she just got home from work.
I'm not actually. I'm taking notes.
Okay. You can't do both?
I am doing both.
Hashtag why not both?
Hashtag why not everything?
Yeah. I'm barely awake myself. Let's see here. So I was actually really surprised because I was looking up photos of Kyle on Facebook to do the promo images, and Kyle did not look like I assumed he looked. For some reason, I just always kind of assumed Kyle looked like Dino from Dino Files, but he doesn't. Are you really tall?
Yeah, I'm like 6'4".
Jesus Christ. I didn't even think he was that tall from the pictures. Holy crap, dude. What's that like?
I hit my head on a lot of stuff. I probably have more concussions than, the average person out there. So that's like the downside, The great thing is that like it extended, the space in my apartment by a couple extra square feet because I could like put stuff on top of all the cabinets and everything and just reach up there and grab it. So that's nice. There's a few perks, but it's mostly just hitting your head on shit.
Aw, that's awesome.
I guess. You think there's a few perks to being tall? They talk to my short ass over here. And more than a few perks to being tall. So I'm curious, we have a foreign policy guy in here, which doesn't happen all the time. What do you think are the places that we really need to focus on as far as being aware of what's going on? Because so often it seems like there's so much going on in the world. It's like, where the hell do I even begin with all this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is one of the things. The U.S. is waging 6 or 7 wars right now, depending on how you want to count it all. And so,
I was going to say that sounds like a light number to me.
Well, right, and I mean, if you want to count like economic warfare, that number will get you in the double digits pretty quick too. Completely starving off, the Venezuelans, the Iranians, and the North Koreans is warfare in itself. But we're talking about dropping bombs. It's 6 or 7 different places, and so it can be overwhelming. The absolute worst thing the U.S. is doing is the war in Yemen, where we're backing Saudi Arabia. They're waging all but a genocide there. It's as Martha Mundy had put it, it's a war against the food, a food war. They've intentionally bombed farms of sheep, flocks of sheep, farm equipment, all kinds of just, completely civilian infrastructure. They've cut imports off of that country, so it's really hard to get any kind of food in. Just about everybody is now relying on food aid, because there's no other way to get food. So even if you do have money, everything's expensive and hard to get.
I mean, so I guess, has things gotten any better over there? I know, wasn't the UAE pulling out of there recently?
Yeah, so this is
how has that changed things?
Right. Well, I mean, the UAE is part of the Saudi and U.S. coalition. However, they back different factions than Saudi Arabia in Yemen, although the Houthis are the common enemy there. And so, you'll have the UAE backing what was known as the Southern Separatists. And apparently they still are, and they're still somewhat involved in Yemen. They're just apparently less concerned with the war against the Houthis at this point, and more concerned about securing their interests, which I guess is port building and the island of Sakota, which is out there in the Gulf of Aden and technically Yemeni territory. Although I guess, the central government of Yemen really has no ability to control it at this point. And the UAE has built like a military base there. But actually, if anybody wants to look it up, or, looking for something a little lighter to learn about Yemen, this is a really cool island. It's known as the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean, and it just has like a lot of like really unique species and stuff like that. So I think it's called Sakota, and I'll send you guys a link if you need it. But something to check out. So the UAE is more interested in that kind of stuff now, and they're not completely backing out of that war. But they've definitely kind of dialed it down. But as far as it goes for the civilian population, just the average Yemeni child trying to get some food in his belly and eat, things are getting worse, not better. It's kind of the situation right now in Yemen, and that's going to be the case until the U.S. and the UK either back off of Saudi support or just convince Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who's the man who started this war, get him to back off and tell him, enough with this. We've lost this war. It's over.
Interesting, because I don't, based on the way it gets reported on, I kind of, I mean, I knew that it wasn't over, but I got the impression that it was at least kind of moving in a direction that we would like to see it move in. But
right, and I guess, in a little bit, it is that way. I mean, it's better that the UAE isn't like doubling down and saying we're going to deploy another 50,000 troops to Yemen to fight the Houthis. That's worse, but the situation now, I guess, isn't any better.
Is it a case where it's already just so fucking bad they don't even need to have the people there to do anything? Like, oh, right. Yeah, we've already destroyed your infrastructure so much that you're just going to die because you have nothing. We don't need to have people there watching it happen.
Yeah, at this point, until the blockade is lifted, and I mean, there's going to have to be like a lot of international aid poured into that country. I mean, those people at one point in an assessment said that their country had been bombed backwards 20 years. So imagine whatever town you live in, losing all the infrastructure that's been built in the past 20 years. What impact, that would have on you and your economy. Well, this was already the poorest country in the Middle East, and it got bombed backwards 20 years.
I was going to come up with a really hateful thing to say about Cleveland. I'm like, I don't think they've built any infrastructure in 100 years, so technically that wouldn't do anything. but that seems insensitive to the plight of the Yemeni people.
Right. Yeah. So, the situation is until that war ends and some sort of deal is able. And another thing is just like so many people have been killed, and Yemen's a fractured society as is. I'm sure it's going to be a long time before all like the mutual deals that need to be met are met to rebuild infrastructure and just kind of stabilize all the different fighting in regions, because people are going to have opportunities to seize more territory if maybe the tribe next door has been really depleted by the Saudi war, or if another one allied with the Houthis and so now has like double the territory they had before. All these kind of deals could need to be worked out. And as people point out about South Sudan, the fighting really slowed down or ended so far in 2019, but the situation for the people hasn't gotten any better whatsoever, because it's just going to take so much time for the infrastructure to be rebuilt and all kind of the domestic kind of ties and disputes to be settled and worked out again.
It's just puppy love, but they'll never know just how deep it runs. 10 miles wide, 15 deep, so deep in love I drown if you weren't holding me. And we don't need to prove that we're alright out here on our own, loving one another till we turn to dust. Oh, this rock grows cold, grows cold.
I'm curious. So while I'm thinking of this, I've kind of got like, I have an image of Bono in my head, and kind of thinking about some of the stuff that he's said and done over the years involving foreign involvement and whatnot. I'm curious if there's something that you think that artists could do better with. If there's a way in which you think that they could help. You think utilizing celebrity would be the best thing that they could do? Is there messages you'd like to see in music being kind of propagated out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so sure how well like communicating the message through song would do, but
I mean, it seemed to work for Vietnam. I guess is why I think that. But you think it's a different world now that it doesn't work as well?
I think it's better if Taylor Swift writes music about whatever her latest breakup is, and then puts on Twitter, like, this is a starving Yemeni children, tell Trump to end this war tomorrow. Also, I think if any of them
Facebook will throttle that so no one ever sees it, but that's fine.
I don't know. There's a lot of people that go right to these, what I mean, and really like obsessively follow these stars.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think like if they were, really trying to like tell their followers like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what, you should be telling, politicians to do or not do, that they may jump on board with that. Unfortunately, it seems to me that most of the time these people only have a rather shallow understanding of the issues at hand. And anytime they are calling for anything, it's so politically motivated, and it seems to me very like, helping their fame more so than actually looking out for whoever they're trying to help. Maybe they're anti-Trump, and so they're tweeting about the border wall or something like that. But what, they didn't care when Obama was throwing children in cages, and they're not going to care if Joe Biden is throwing children in cages. It'll completely change again. And so, like, just actually wanting to help people would be one thing. And I think a lot of celebrities probably aren't as interested in that as they come off as being, and making it, less political and just more about, this is the right thing to do. This is why I believe in, and spreading that message to their fans and followers.
So I just heard Kyle say that Chloe and Agnos needs to start like tweet mobbing Taylor Swift to make this happen. So just start tweeting at her a whole bunch of Yemeni war stuff.
Right, like go to Nasser Arabi's Twitter feed and find all of like the pictures he has of all the U.S. made bombs that blew Yemeni children to pieces, and tweeted at all these, kind of famous younger, singers and see if any of them will ever retweet anything. Like, will they show a Yemeni child starving to death because of the Saudi blockade backed by the United States? Well, that'd be quite interesting. If they really want to talk about what a horrific person Donald Trump is, well, let's talk about how he's starving a whole society of children in Yemen. That seems pretty...
Well, but I mean, I heard 500,000 dead Iraqi children was worth the price.
Right. And so, that nobody is talking about that. And hell, Madeleine Albright still walks around celebrated by the left is astounding to me. I mean, she should be completely shunned by polite society. However, the left has really embraced, all the neocons that came over after Donald Trump's American First thing.
I was going to say Max Boot's been getting around.
Right. That's exactly who I was thinking of, is Max Boot becomes a Democrat and, is just advocating for war again. It's quite amazing that this guy is allowed anywhere near polite society after what he did, lying Americans into the Iraq war in the first place. He should be laughed out of everywhere. The only person that should ever have him on is Tucker Carlson, so he could ask him questions about the Iraq war and make that stupid looking face at
his gotcha face.
Boot. Yeah.
That would be really funny. But I mean, Tucker's, shit on everything with the exception of foreign policy. He's more fucking protectionist than most Democrats I know.
Right. No, the guy has a lot of shortcomings, but
and no understanding of history
about war. Yeah.
It's like,
well, I mean, he has an understanding of the Iraq war history and hell, in America.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a one war history. I want someone who has some understanding of human history. That's my big thing with Tucker Carlson. Is like, Tucker Carlson, if you've ever read a history book, you literally can't be upset at, technology being upgraded. Like, technological innovation in the entirety of human history has never once been bad for the entirety of humanity. It has ruffled some feathers in certain industries, but it has 100% always been a net gain to people. And you watch how everything in the world gets better in huge, huge leaps and bounds when technology increases. He's just an idiot, and it pisses me off. So I'm glad that he's good on war. I'd be happier when he starts being good on, ending the school system that continues making people.
And I should qualify that with, he's good on a couple of war issues. He's not like a non-interventionist or anti-war by any means.
Well, but I mean, that's kind of the lot that we're left with. I mean, look at the way libertarians are fawning over Tulsi Gabbard, and she's just exact same way. Good on some of the wars, not good on the entirety. We still need to be over there fighting Al Qaeda. We just don't want to be, fighting with Al Qaeda.
Yeah, which shouldn't be a very bold and, unique war position to not be fighting the wars for Al Qaeda. But, this gets kind of Tulsi put on the fringe, her war position, for whatever crazy reason. That one of the most ridiculous things that they think that she says is when she goes, we shouldn't try to throw Bashar al-Assad. We shouldn't have supported the Syrian opposition. It's like, yeah. And, she even went as far as during the time as introducing the Stop Arming Al-Qaeda or Stop Arming Terrorists Act to try to get the U.S. government to stop arming Al-Qaeda in Syria. And they continued to do it anyways. Thanks a lot, Barack Obama and John Brennan.
I'm curious if there are any news sources that you think should be avoided if I don't want to, be flagged and, sent to a camp.
I don't know about fled and sent to a camp, I guess, depending on where you are on the internet and what you're saying, anybody could be fled for any reason. It seems nowadays, like some of the things that people have been hit on years later for saying, or some of the tweets that get labeled as anti-Semitic are pretty not that bad. So I don't know what advice to give you there. I would say if you're trying to understand foreign policy, you can't just read Zero Hedge. I think that's a mistake that a lot of libertarians make. I'm not saying it's completely useless to read the site. I don't
even read Zero Hedge, so.
But it's certainly, I would never read anything only on Zero Hedge and then cite it on the show.
Okay. And one of the reasons I asked that question is because so much of foreign policy just seems like it all stems from the fact that we stroke the nuts of Israel, and that seems frustrating to me.
Yeah, I mean the Israel lobby is, one of the huge players in the U.S. foreign policy in determining what direction it's going to go. And it really doesn't make sense why the U.S. would favor Israel so much, just other than its ingrained policy. Hell, I was just reading an article yesterday in the American Conservative talking about how Ike Eisenhower, Mr. Republican there, censored Israel 3 times during his administration for things that they were doing to the Palestinians and just being provocative and war making in the region. And so it's not like un-Republican or un-American to blame Israel for the things that they're doing wrong, but kind of the way the Israel lobby in the U.S. has worked, along with just a lot of like Christians within the Republican Party, to craft this narrative that it's the Christians in the U.S. and I guess the Jewish people of Israel, who I'm sure they see as the fellow whites of the Middle East, against the Arabic invaders and the Arab invaders. And that's the reason that, we have to be allies with Israel.
Look, I'm just saying, terrible white supremacists, if they're thinking that the Jews are the whites of the area. There are no whites in that area, right?
I mean, there have been a lot of Jewish people from like Eastern Europe and Russia. And I think this is in part because the Soviet Union was so brutal. And then Nazi Germany forced all those people out of Europe, and a lot of them ended up back in kind of that area.
I'm sorry, Kyle. I work under the whole 1950s era white, litmus test. So technically, I'm not white either. The Italian-Irish thing. This is basically just the Germans and the British.
I guess my point is that when you look at the TV and when these people look at the TV and Netanyahu or whoever else in the Israeli government is up there, they look like them, right? They look enough like somebody that you would see walking down the street in the United States, white enough like that these people must be the refined democratic voices of the Middle East. And then you have just a whole bunch of Arab savages. And I think that's the way a lot of people in the Republican Party kind of look at the Middle East and Israel, and that whole narrative that in part was, put forward by the Israeli lobby, but even people like, the American First Donald Trumpers put that forward. And so now we're stuck in this unbreakable alliance with Israel, and it's not good for us. And it's certainly not good for the Palestinians who are just suffering over there.
Hey, how's it going? Nikki P here. Want to support the show or just give a big middle finger to Patreon? Consider stopping over to supportsll.com. Members of the Freedom Choir get access to the private Facebook group and actual physical merch. Want access to the unedited raw interviews as they're recorded way before they're released? It's in there. Is that not enough? And you want membership to Freedom Song 365? It's in there. There's even monthly bonus swag for top tier supporters. So head on over to supportsll.com. Help Liz and I get to libertarian functions and even just cover the costs of making the show. If I'm not a good enough salesman, how about this?
Support my mom and dad and Sounds Like Liberty. Go to supportsll.com.
You heard her, folks. Join the Freedom Choir at supportsll.com.
So here's a question for you. One of the things that I think hasn't been talked about enough, in regards to foreign policy. It's come up a few times because of certain names that have been floated through the Trump presidency, but torture. And my question to you is, and this is probably going to be a controversial question. Do you think they fucked up with the music that they were using for torture? What do you think would have been better music for torture?
Oh, do you know what they played? I'm just curious.
I think Metallica is what I heard.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that had to be pretty offensive to listen to that, especially not speaking English and having no idea what they're saying. And this guy is just going on and on. I have always found Bob Dylan to be one of the most unlistenable to artists. So maybe that's who I would have picked.
See, and that's why Kyle doesn't like anti-war music, because Bob Dylan just kept putting it out, and he's like, "Fuck this nonsense."
I just can't stand his voice. So I'm thinking of like,
he gave me the hot takes that I needed.
Music in a different language that I don't understand. That would be pretty bad to me. But
I listen to music in other languages all the time for the record.
Thing. Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of really good bands that just don't speak English.
Yeah, but do you know what they're saying? Like,
really
doesn't that ruin it for you?
No,
okay,
really.
All right.
Sometimes I'll go look it up if I like really, really like a song and I want to see if I'm like chanting along with terrorists or something. But but I mean, other than that, no, whatever. I mean, I've like have my name down as having purchased Noam Chomsky books. I'm pretty much fucked anyways. Like if they ever want to come for me, they're coming for me. So I'm thinking like if I really wanted to torture somebody, like it would have to be like I just go and buy a Kids Bop CD or something. Like I feel like that would have to be more effective.
I don't know.
And like maybe you get waterboarded while listening to the Kids Bop CDs.
I mean, none of that is good. So I guess mission accomplished.
What do you think is worse, waterboarding or being forced to listen to the Kids Bop version of All Star by Smash Mouth on repeat?
Pretty sure still the waterboarding.
Yeah, I mean, you like if you really want to compare it, maybe Hillary Clinton's speeches would be like most intolerable thing. I can't stand that woman's voice. So for me, that would have to like be up there with the most intolerable thing.
He died.
Jeez Louise.
Is she a woman? She's not like a robot sent from hell?
I mean, at this point, does it really matter?
You know what? I don't believe it does. And that is, if there's anything that I can see as having been positive in the past couple of years, I just get the feeling that no, it really doesn't fucking matter what Hillary wants. And you know,
which is a great thing.
Yeah, like not that any of the voices that are currently in there I prefer, but
yeah,
at least that's one extra one that's not around there. It seems like. Do you think that do you think there's going to be any long-lasting repercussions with the whole Epstein thing on the Clintons?
You know, I've tried to really figure out, like, in some kind of concrete way, what is actually going on there. A Whitney Webb, who works or at least formerly Mint Press News, because she is just taking off, has done, I think, the best work. But I really can't figure out where this conspiracy goes. There's a lot of people who are saying there's links to Mossad. And from what I understand, that wouldn't be very surprising if you know there are intelligence agencies like Mossad and the CIA who are working with Epstein on this whole thing to get blackmail on different world leaders. And so I don't know if I put my conspiracy hat on. That's kind of where I'm going with things right now.
That's the thing. That's a frustrating thing for me. Not that I don't even agree with you. It's just the position that we're all put in regards to this, and that you know we're forced to like. I'm forced to have to deal with the fact that there are people out there that want to make everything the JQ. But there's also the fact that Israel is involved in a lot of really horrible shit all over the globe, and. Like I have to police myself that I don't want to be anti-Semitic, and just feel like I'm buying into things that are spread because there are actual anti-Semites out there. But the fact of the matter is that like Israel's a pretty fucking terrible government, and it's frustrating to have to not know where the truth is on that. And I do you think that they kind of lean into that a lot more than we get with the mainstream would give them credit for?
Well, right. And if I had just said that the KGB was behind it or whatever it is now, the RBRG or whatever it is, GRU, the new Russian intelligence agency, I would never get accused of being any kind of phobic or Semitic or whatever the hell. If I'm, insulting the Russians and accusing them of being a part of it. But, there is some evidence, I suppose, that, this guy did have ties with people who are around Mossad. And certainly, this isn't something that Western intelligence, and I put nothing beyond, what the CIA would do. And so I accuse them, and then I'm anti-American or anti-Semitic or something like that. And so, and I guess I should say I'm trying not to like make like a big accusal there, because as far as I know, maybe Jeffrey Epstein was like kind of doing the whole thing on his own. This was his way of blackmailing people. He got caught and hung himself in jail because he's a sick pedophile, rapist, son of a bitch, human trafficker who deserved to die more than just about anybody else. So the only thing I guess I really wish is that this guy had lived long enough to tell everybody, first of all, who all the pedophiles are, so we could know and never associate with any of them again. And, you know, if that includes Trump, Clinton's, Prince Andrew, whoever else, you know, all the possible names on that list, then good riddance. Glad we know. Never going to associate with those people again. Kick them out of the flight company. And
now here's a question for you, because, excuse me, that word gets bandied about a lot in regards to the Epstein situation as pedophile. The fact of the matter is that I do think there's a fundamental difference between, you know, fucking 8-year-olds and say, you know, 16-year-old girls that are outside the window of consent legally. And it seems to be an issue that like should be perhaps treated differently. And I find it odd the way in which, to my understanding, the girls that were involved in this were underage, but not, you know, grossly underage. Like you and I probably would look at them and not be able to tell the difference between a girl that we would sleep with age-wise. But it's like the whole thing was done in a way as to say, like, you know, from a blackmail perspective, they're people, they'd have to use women that would pass, but legally not be the case, so that you could convince people who maybe aren't necessarily pedophiles to give you the blackmail material that you need. What's your position on that?
No, I guess I gotta agree with you on that position, that it seems intentional that, you know, any girls that you see in these pictures could have been, you know what I mean, just passing and be like, oh, you know, that girl could be between 16 and 21.
Yeah.
You know, her age by
young, obviously, and perhaps that's disgusting, but not like, but the way that they're banding around the word pedophile so much in regards to the treatment of it.
But I was going to add is that I think I don't mind using the word pedophile and bandying that around, just because this was clearly, you know, forcing girls to have sex against their will. And, you know, these are obviously all these men, you know, I don't know if any women were involved too, had to know that they were taking advantage of these young girls. And so, you know, call them whatever the hell you want, pedophiles, rapists, child abusers. You know what I mean?
I'm not even saying I necessarily disagree with you. I've just been listening to too much Monica Perez, and, you know, everything's a psyop now.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Monica?
I mean, I've heard her a couple of times. I think she's been on Pete's show, right?
Oh, dude, her show with Brad's so fucking good. They do and they do it daily now, and like they do kind of like what you do, but as opposed to focusing on foreign policy, they kind of focus on the things that look like it's an intentional psyop within the news, and kind of like they track over time like the different messages that kind of come out when they come out, the things that are going on that might seem unrelated but are perhaps related in the news. It's pretty interesting.
No, and it's really important work. And as you said, you know, it's something that I do at times with the foreign policy stories, where I try to like pay attention to, oh, suddenly, you know, this mainstream news source like the Washington Post seems real interesting covering Taliban suicide bombings. Why is that when they haven't cared in the past 2 years? Oh, it's because peace talks are going on with the Taliban, and, you know, they want to try to make the Taliban not look so good and, you know, try to, I think, harm the relationship there. So it is important to do that kind of work, and I'm certainly glad that someone's doing it. One of the unfortunate things about doing the podcast is that I had to shave down my list of podcasts I listened to by like 3/4 once I started doing my own show. I'm sure it's something that you've noticed too. It just takes so much time, you can't listen to everyone anymore.
Well, I have, you know, 3 active podcasts that I produce, and I listen to over 150 podcasts a week. So,
oh wow, well that's very impressive.
Yeah, I need to cut back.
He's OCD, is really what he's saying.
That's no. One of my podcasts is actually just promoting other people's podcasts, like libertarian podcasts. And so I keep the feed of every if there's any libertarian podcasts you don't think get enough love, please let me know so I can add it, make sure they're on my list. Because I like to get, the voices out there. In particular, I like to focus on voices that aren't necessarily the ones that everyone knows about. Like Dave Smith, everybody knows about. I don't really think he needs a leg up. But there's, other actors out there that, perhaps don't get the respect that they deserve. I always recommend the Friends Against Government guys because I think, we've already got the Tom Woodses of the world that are really good on the philosophy. I think the important thing is we need to have people promoting, just living with this being, the background. We all kind of agree on the politics, so how do we move on and create the world that we want from here?
Yeah, no, I like a lot. I try to, when I can, listen to some of the less heavy libertarian shows, just because it's enjoyable. It makes being a libertarian kind of fun to listen to that kind of stuff. If you're just listening to, especially my show or Tom's show all day, it's heavy and it makes being a libertarian you just have to constantly be fighting against all the worst kind of things that the state is doing.
I'll be honest, there are weeks when I just can't listen to your show even because it's the world is just so fucking awful. I need a vacation. I'll take a week off of you and Scott. What's his John Oderman. I love what John does, but sometimes it's real difficult to listen to yet another fucking story about the police and the fucked up shit that the criminal justice system does.
Yeah, no, those cases are so frustrating. His show is hard to listen to because I'm an American and so I'm subject to the same criminal justice system too. And I could see how I could get fucked the same way that all these people have. And boy, it just drives me nuts and makes me mad.
Just be friends with one cop that you can yell at.
That's your therapy.
That's what I do. I just yell at my little brother.
Oh, there you go. Maybe he could rent out services to libertarians.
There you go.
He's a half hour just be rating him for all the terrible things the cops have done the past week. That sounds kind of therapeutic.
The joke is that he probably, on principle, is one of the more libertarian people I know. He's just, libertarian with the exception of the law and order-ness of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's frustrating. Turn on the lights and all I wanna do is win. There's when I wake an hour, then win that cup. No matter how much you suit the car, never had a stroke of love. Oh, can't you see? There's no car like me. Oh, can't you see? There's no car like me. Can you feel the heat? Here he goes the street. With the fire is red. All right, Liz. Normally we would go over some lyrics with Kyle.
Yes.
But I feel like Kyle would just be like, fuck them, they're commies.
Right.
So what do you think we should do instead? Just say, which Bob Dylan song about war do you like the least?
Do
you have the list ready?
Of Bob Dylan songs?
Sure, why not? I was like, I've never listened to a Bob Dylan song about war, Nick. That's
he just said that he finds...
the point where I said I fucking hate his
I've
voice.
never made it through an entire Bob Dylan song before. It gets changed every single time it comes on.
There you go.
I'm done with this.
What's terrible, Kyle? There's some really good messages in there. You've never listened to Blowing in the Wind, man.
Right. The message could be great, but if the medium's that
bad... Be like having you listen to all John Lennon songs.
Look, if I have an episode of the show where I tap the mic the entire time and somebody messages me and is like, dude, it's important, I can't listen to it with all that knocking going on. I understand. So it's the same thing with his voice for me.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh no, believe me, I get it. In fact, Bob Dylan is always the person that I look to and say, like, look, when you think that you can't sing, it doesn't matter. Bob Dylan had a career. He was famous.
Yeah.
He was awful. Just absolute garbage. Hot garbage. And I think, like, if his lyrics were good, it was probably by accident in most cases. Because I got the impression he was too high to know what was going on most times. So, I don't know.
There you go.
All
right, Kyle. Is there anything you wanted to plug while we got you on here? Tell people to go check you out.
Yeah, I mean, make sure everybody check out at least 1 or 2 episodes of the show. See if you like it. If you do, subscribe to it somewhere, because I try to do like current event shows most of the time, rather than having like on like a guest to talk about one subject in detail.
Though you do have your Will Porter episodes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but the other thing I would recommend is checking out one at least that I've done with Will Porter. Most people say those are the best ones. We've done over 50 shows together now, so there's some pretty good chemistry there. When we're talking, it goes pretty well. And Will is somebody like me who just researches this stuff all day long. So we usually have pretty interesting conversations. Sometimes we get into the weeds a little bit more in those kind of shows, but I think it's always like the most important details to understand to really figure out what's going on with U.S. foreign policy and how it could possibly be that, we've waged the war on terror for 18 years now in well over a dozen countries, spent trillions of dollars, thousands of American lives in the Middle East, tens of thousands more once they come home and end up, with drug addiction and, suicide deaths, and end up with, probably 100-fold more terrorists now than are on 9/11.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on terrorism, Liz?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty bleak picture that, that is the reality as far as the war on terror goes. So that's...
You got it, folks. She's okay with terror.
I was going to go with the Mr. Mackey. Terrorism's bad, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, but no, it's a blowback of U.S. foreign policy.
I've also been told that it's, white male terrorism is, right-wing white male terrorism is the worst kind of terrorism that we have to be concerned about right now.
Oh, really?
Right.
That's what the news tells me.
Yeah. That's a bad deal. And a whole bunch of leftists are jumping on board with that one. And it's so stupid. It's like the problem is the terrorism label for, the Arab people, not that we need to start applying that at home. Now you're going to have the FBI entrapping a whole bunch of dumb white kids who grew up in trailer parks without fathers into saying that they hate black people and want to shoot up some black church or something like that. And it's going to be all over the news in the coming years. I guarantee it. That the FBI entrapped some new dumb white kid into saying that he was a racist and hated Jews or blacks or whoever else and want to shoot up a church. And there's a great episode, and maybe I'll send you the link for this one, where Scott Horton does with Trevor Harrison on how it's kind of like destroyed the fabric of communities, of minority communities in the Middle East by saying that, oh, we, got this Pakistani kid on video saying that he wants to blow up this place or that place. And now everybody doesn't trust the Pakistan community in town. Well, the same thing's going to happen, continue to destroy, the relationship, between different communities and races if we implement this whole war on white terror bullshit they want to do.
Literally too much foreign policy. Because just as you say that, I'm like, oh God, and isn't Pakistan and India in the news recently?
Yeah. So India removed the special status for Kashmir. And that's kicked off a whole football. And if we had another hour, I would sit here.
Yeah, there's just literally too much.
But if anybody is interested, I'll send you guys a link to something. Maybe I'll find an Eric Margolis article. Or if you really want to know War at the Top of the World by Eric Margolis is the best thing that you could read to understand what's going on in Kashmir, why the people there are upset, and how this could kick off
Okay.
Right on. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for coming on, boss. I'm glad that we finally got to have you on. We've needed to do it for a while. Like I said, you're just too tied into like actual smart people shit that I perhaps intimidated away from it.
All right, well, thanks so much. And anytime, and next time I'll listen to a Bob Dylan song or something when you talk about it. I'll suffer through a whole thing.
There's other good anti-war music.
There are.
So, all right, boss, you have yourself a good Friday.
You too.
We'll walk this land, separating people, the ones who serve from those who come in. The judges are blinded, the kings are decided. Those in the stocks await their day. Men can huddle up and fear a tyrant, or use the blades and chains from their own hand. Men can watch and solve their fates decided, or pull the pages back from God's own hand.
So, what are you thinking, Liz? How was that? Was that everything you hoped it would be?
It was fabulous. It was an actual interview where we talked about music a little, which was cool.
It was probably the least musical talked about interview we've actually had to date.
Was it really?
Yeah, we mostly didn't talk about music. Because Kyle's not big on music. Remember? What interview are you remembering?
No, I remember him talking about his musical
Remember
history.
we talked about how much he hates Bob Dylan?
And yeah, Bob Dylan. And Rage Against the Machine. And stuff.
Well, he hates commies, I got that impression.
Well, yeah. That makes sense.
But who doesn't, you know? Anyways, so that was a fantastic episode, I think. I'd like to give a shout out to all the people who subscribe. I should probably remind you, why don't you go out and give us reviews and stuff, because people tell me that helps.
It helps your podcast get seen. Yeah, that's the thing.
I guess we could use some seeing-ness.
Sure.
And if you'd be so kind as to maybe tell some people, that'd be fun too.
Yep.
If you tell people and you can like prove it to me, I'll like send you buttons and stickers and stuff.
And if you have suggestions for the show, we'd love to hear those too. You can always hit Nick up on Twitter, or
just
hit
go
us up
join
on Facebook, or join the
Sounds Like Liberty discussion board.
Yeah, which is always a good time. We like the musical memes up there.
I do. I just rip off other groups' musical memes.
Which I feel like is fair play in meme world, is it not?
I don't know. I don't really understand memes.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, if that's a thing, you can tell us about that too.
Yeah. Tell me how terrible I am at the internet. That's something you can do. I already know.
What's this thing with all the buttons?
Pretty much. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Oh, God.
But at any rate, as always, you can go sign up to send us money and help us out, keep the lights on. I spend a fair amount of money out of pocket to do this because I like talking to people. But you go to supportsll.com. If you just want to get the show notes, and Liz does a fantastic job about putting all the links and stuff in there, you can head on over to angapmusic.com. Otherwise, folks, you go out and you have yourself a good Wednesday.
Thanks for listening.
Enjoy the day.